Hola, ¿qué tal amigos de Radix? Estamos muy contentos porque hoy estamos hablando con la mismísima Laura Gonçalves, directora de O Homem do Lixo, y que está preseleccionado al premio de la Academia, representando a Portugal, que obviamente es una de las cartas fuertes del bloque. Thank you so much, Laura. How are you?
Thank you so much for the invitation. I am good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Very happy of here talking with you. About this film, O Homem do Lixo, or in its international title, The Garbage Man. First of all, I wanted to ask you about the labels because I've seen that some people is having trouble by labeling it. They say it's a documentary, but I don't know if you think this would apply, or do you think it's just memories from your uncle?
No, this is actually, it's all recorded. It was interviews that I did to my family. So all of the voices that we hear are all the people actually talking and sharing their memories of my uncle. So they're actually all real interviews. I didn't wrote anything. They just talked naturally about these different moments. So it's actually a moment of almost like archive of some not just about the memories, but also about this time, this periods of like how they felt about in certain moments in history, which, for example, during the dictatorship, while my uncle was in Angola, and this happened with thousands of other people. People here in Portugal weren't able to reach out and talk to their dear ones in Angola, and my mom and my aunt talk a bit about that. So it's all like I do see it as documentary, if you want to put it in a box.
Yeah, okay. Well, there are a lot of questions I want to ask you. First of all, you were talking about the recordings, the dialogues, because it feels very intimate, as if you were dining with your family on a table. How was this process? Was it really like this, or how did you do it?
No, so that would be very confusing. I did record a lot of the meals all together and a lot of the sounds that the meal in the table during the film. It's all it's not all of it, because there was a lot of foley also to put the moments together, but the people talking at the table, it was recorded. But the stories that are being told, the process was I recorded each person separately in a different sometime when we got together in some kind of family gathering. I would just get someone and put them in a room and like, okay, what about this? What do you know, like, do you remember this? Can you tell a bit about this moment? And people would talk about that. And then what I did was creating a soundtrack with all of these pieces of interviews that I wanted to use in the film to create the storyline. And then the sound designers did a very good job in putting everything together, like there is a conversation being held. There was also moments that I interviewed three people at the same time, because I wanted them to answer back to each other. But yeah, it was all of that. It came together as something that it actually is something that happened. So It wasn't recorded at the table all at the same time, but it very much simulates what happens. And one thing that we had a lot of trouble was because I interviewed people in different rooms, and there was some that were really well recorded and others that weren't so well recorded. And in the end, there was because I wanted to use the original recordings and not, I didn't want it to record again with a better sound. I just asked it to kind of make all of the sound very bad with all the echoes and all of everything, so everything could be more harmonious, like you're actually in the table, because there's a lot of confusion at the table. But the process was that, to kind of put people talking together at the table.
Well, it feels very organic. Of all your family, why did you decide to honor your uncle in particular?
There is a lot of reasons. This project comes from a lot of years. I started interviewing I started recording my family, telling these stories at the table, because I thought that he died 10 years ago, and even if he died so long ago, we still talk about him at the table. And this is something that really fascinated me, how he was a very special person, and he gave us a lot of memories to talk about him. He left a lot of heritage of this well-being and putting everyone together. And it's funny because people start, after so long, people start repeating the same phrases, always saying the same things, even if you would say it in a different way. After you hear it so many times repeated, you start repeating it as well. And this was something that fascinated me, and I started recording my family because of this. And I wanted to do a movie about this memory sharing, and also because he died when I was still really young, and there is so much that I didn't know about him. So I wanted to also make some also understand a little bit more about different moments, like in Angola, and when he immigrated to France by Salto with my aunts and 4 children. This is all things that no one really talked about, and I was too young, I wasn't there, and no one really talked about it. So I started interviewing them about all of these more deep subjects. Also, Angola, there was this portrait of him with a monkey that was there, and there is nothing that we know about it besides that portrait and the one with the pineapples. And this is the only 2 portraits that we know of him, and no one talks about the war in Portugal. So it interested me to know a little bit more, but then that's the fact, he never talked about it. So what I got was the perspective of my mom and my aunt, saying that they didn't know anything about it. The letters were censored, and they just cried a lot. And that's also the experience of many people that went through the same, that had their people also, and they couldn't communicate. Sorry, what was the question? I think I lost myself.
Why did you decide to honor your uncle?
Right. So yeah, so this thing of this past, that it also this past of him is a very personal story, but at the same time it represents so many thousands of people. There's almost everyone in Portugal had someone that was in the war, and there was a big immigration to France in the 60s. It represents a lot of Portuguese history that it's not really that much talked about. But besides that, I think that it was the idea came from my memories as a child of him coming back from France already when he worked as a garbage man, and he would collect so many objects that people would throw away, and not because they wanted to change it, and he would collect it during the year and then bring it to Portugal and give it a different life, a new life. And this is something that fascinated me about my uncle. We never knew what to expect. It was kind of this magical being that would just open up the truck and just start taking things out. And I think that the fact that he was living life like this all to the fullest, and it was really centered about making people happy. And I think that this also had to do with the war, because you can die at any time. So I think that the fact that he brought so much things and happiness to people around him had to do with also this. And it was very fascinating for me to do the film, because I discovered a lot of these things, and I started understanding more about my uncle and my family past, like the Salto. They had to do it with their 4 children, and they just had twins that were 1 month old, and they had to cross by foot the frontiers. And I didn't know anything about this before I started interviewing them. So this it all came together a lot while I was making the film. It was very fulfilling for me as a person. And I think that the story of my uncle is not just a story of him, it's a story of a lot of people that went through very hard times. And it's all about how you share those bad moments and the good moments with people, that it's really important. And also there was this during this time of while I was working as a garbage man, we were in Portugal and France. It's very close countries, but during this time there was a big gap between Portugal just coming out of a dictatorship and France that it's economically very rich, and people would give a value to objects that us in Portugal, coming out from a war, from a dictatorship, are giving it another value. And this is applicable to a lot of things that still happen today. We have different perspectives depending on where you're coming from. So I think that me wanting to do this film wasn't just about my uncle, but about a lot of other bigger things.
It's very interesting what you say, because when I was looking at the film, it's just as you said, that it's a story. Well, of course, you have the garbage that for someone it may be garbage, but for someone else it's a treasure. But also it's a story of war, of loss, of immigration, but also it's a story full of hope, I think. Was it difficult to create this mix for you?
No, because from the beginning, one thing that I really wanted was to portray what actually happened, what actually happens at the table. And the truth is that we're eating and something comes up, oh, there's this glass, so we eat. That was uncle that brought it from France, and everyone starts laughing and telling stories. And there's this happiness that had to do with with the environment of the at the table, about telling these stories, that it's happiness, there's no sadness. I wanted to include these other parts of the story about the war and the salto, because I do believe that this is very important to explain the rest of the story. Important to also explain a little bit about why, and maybe it doesn't explain it, you know, this is just my theory, because I want know what he thought about it, and if he was like this before the war, this was because of the war. I just feel like it's important to, even when you went through all of these really dark moments, it's how you come out from it and how you live life after that. You know, you didn't die. He used to say this as well. It's if someone came with a problem to him, it's like it's better than being dead. He used to say this a lot. So I think that there was a lot of, like, if you were with him, you would never be sad. So I think that this I wanted to always one of the things of this film was to make it a hopeful and happy sharing of memories, and not about, oh, let's share, you know, like, let's all be very sad that this person died. You know, it's more about celebrating his life.
Well, you nailed it. And also, well, I know that well, we listen all the conversations around your uncle, but what part of your memories, you, Laura, do we see in the film? Maybe I was curious maybe about that image of him as a giant, or the colors. What's yours? What are your memories?
Yes, so one of the things was my memories of him is more when he was a garbage man, when he would come back. And I remember him playing a lot with, he would bring toys that the kids didn't want to play with anymore, and he would play with them. He would bring it, and he would he would just gather all the family and do all of these big dinners, and he would just party a lot and pick up all of he had like this collection of things hanging from the walls and from the ceiling, and he would just pick one and started playing. So these are my memories of him. And coming back with a van, like I remember him arriving actually with a van and opening up and starting thinking things and giving these bags. So this is my memories. I try to put a little bit of my memories in that part of the film, but it's mostly I feel like myself more like a person that it's collecting the memories of the people, and is there more like a voyeur and trying to connect the conversation. But yeah, the representation, one of the things that I really wanted to do was to make him hug my aunt, and being there in the table with us. I don't really remember that well, his face. And that's one thing that I battled a little bit with, how to represent him. I thought that I would just create that giant that I feel like he is for me. And he is still now is this giant creature that it still fills us. So we still talk about him. And also the monkey, I wanted to somehow use he was kind of funny, a funny person, and the monkey that is in the portrait kind of also extend a little bit of the personality into the table, and create that dynamic and interaction with the people at the table.
And also, there's a part in which one of your or a member of your family says that they thought he was going to bring all friends to Portugal.
Yeah.
So I guess you have to decide which objects you portrayed in your film. So how did you choose which ones to show?
Well, I chose actual objects that I remember, and I remember there was a bull, and he used to. There was a lot of stories about the bull, so I couldn't use all of the voices. The movie already has a lot of dialogue, but there was so many things that I didn't put in this movie, and one of them. So I tried to put also in the objects or stories that people told me. So one of them is the bus. So the monkey's playing with a bus, and they talk about this story. There is there is a wig. There was this time that during carnival that he just dressed up all put a wig, and he just started going to all of the farms. He used to live on the farm, which my aunt still lives there now. It's the one that starts in the beginning. That's actually the farm. And he just put on all this fantasy clothes that he brought from France. So like a gabardine, a jacket. I don't know if gabardine, you say that in in Spanish. Um, and the wig, and he started going to all the farms and like shout and ask for drink, and people would just drink with him like a glass, and then he would go to another place. And so the wig is there. There is a flute that is actually also in my aunt's house. There is uh, a concert, a little accordion. This accordion, I have photos of him when I was a child, and he's actually playing with it. So he had like this he was really big, and he had these really huge hands, like farmer hands, really big. And he was playing this really tiny accordion, like a kind of a a toy. Uh, and that one is also there in the object. And then the Eiffel Tower is another object. This it's more kind of a joke because my parents went there for the first time. No, for the first time in a long time. They went in the 90s, and now they went back again. And all of them, my parents and my sister, they all brought these little Eiffel Towers to hang, and I just thought that that's always a little bit of Paris that you bring, I suppose. And I thought it was uh, uh, a funny object to put in the table to represent, because it's actually an object that really exists, and it's exactly that size that you just put on the table. And I'm trying to remember the object, so I'm more concrete this is not actually in the movie. This is all like it's the objects, the choice. It's not explained in the movie, so it's an interesting question. Actually, no one ever asked me that, so I'm thinking it for the first time. um, there is the pen, and the pen represents the pen is actually, it's not an object that is in, it's not hanging from the ceiling, but it's an important symbolic um, object in the film, because it represents also the pen is full, and there's everyone is eating at the table. He used to when there was people there, and they would spend a lot of time talking. He would just get a pen and get some food and start making something and feeding everyone. So the pen is also something really symbolic for that reason, because it's something that really bring people together, and we have a lot of that tradition of spending a lot of hours talking at the table, eating together. And I'm not remember. I need help. I don't remember my own movie.
There were a lot of objects there.
Yes.
Also, it's a
Oh,
very
sorry. Let me just say this. It's the guitar is a very important object. One thing that is for children are actually three of them live in France and one live in Portugal, and they all meet always in Belmont, and they used to play together. They met there. Everyone plays an instrument, and so this thing of the band playing in the beginning and in the end is something that it's also true, because they are all brothers and sisters that play an instrument, and they all get together and they play. So this, I always thought, where does this come from? Is this something that was inherited also from him? Because he never played, he just played as a joke. He didn't know how to play anything, but he was very artistic. So I was thinking that, you know, also this heritage of the music, I like to think that he brought this guitar at some point, and made also this created this love for music. But yes, I just wanted to add that. Sorry.
I also wanted to ask you, because, well, I know it's a very intimate story, and it's curious because in the end you have a little voice cameo with the coffee. So how did you decide to include yourself there, and why not, for example, a dialogue, something a little more of a dialogue?
I am actually talking twice in the film, because I appear and at the table asking two questions. Just one of them was, I was interviewing my aunt, and I was talking about the war, to know a little bit about the monkey, what happened with the monkey. And I asked her, so did you brought anything from France? From France, no. Did you brought anything from the war? And yeah, so I appear asking that in the interview. And also I asked her about the monkey, if he brought the monkey from Angola. And then appears that moment in the end, because I feel like there's some doubt sometimes that people think that it's not really documentary, it's not really true, but all of these conversations are really like this. We're just talking and interviewing. Sometimes they're talking about something and then they stop and they say, do you want some coffee? And I wanted to leave that part there because it's also the feeling that I wanted to leave with the film. Is that kind of, you know, we're talking about your uncle that died 10 years ago, and now I'm asking you for coffee. So I think that it was something that I wanted to, it was a mood that I wanted to give.
Also, well, your film won Zagreb, which is a qualifier to the Oscar. So how do you feel about this?
I feel really well. I was not expecting that. It was a very big surprise. I love Zagreb. I love Zagreb, like all of the time I was there. It was an amazing week. Was with super interesting people, saw so many beautiful films, and winning the Grand Prix was incredible. I was not expecting it. It was something really really spectacular. I don't know. Also, the funny thing is that besides it was the Grand Prix and also the audience awards, so it was a combo that it's very interesting, because it was not just the award 5 people, but the the public really understood the film, which it was the premiere of the film internationally. I never showed it to anyone besides a Portuguese audience, and I was a little bit scared about how they were going to react to so much dialogue in Portuguese. And this prize was something really special because it made me feel that these voices of these Portuguese people that are also my family were getting through, you know, the barrier of language. So I thought that was really nice. And yes, it's very special to win the Grand Prix in Zagreb, and yeah, it's very special.
And also, next year, 2023, it should be a great year for Portuguese animation because the industry gets 100 years old, the Portuguese animation. And also because there are a lot of people talking about how Portugal may win an animated Oscar for short film. So how do you feel about being part of this story?
Well, once again, I feel very it's a very special moment for Portuguese animation. There is a lot of things being done with a lot of quality. I had goosebumps just thinking about you know, all of the awards that are being handed to Portuguese animation. There was in Guadalajara, there was the prize of the long feature film was won by José Miguel Ribeiro, which was the first animated long feature being made in Portugal, and also João Gonçalves won the short there. So it was very special, and there are a lot of productions in shorts and features being produced now that I'm really looking forward to see. And next year is definitely going to be very interesting to see what is going to happen with the Portuguese production. Also maybe spending more into to the industry, because we don't really have that much industry here in terms of series, but there is a lot of good ideas, and hopefully this can win a different, we can expand a little bit more. So let's see what happens.
Let's hope so. We're almost done. I wanted to ask you about your future. Do you have more shorts coming? Maybe a feature film?
Yes, I have another film I'm working on now. It's a short documentary co-directed with Alexandra Ramirez. I did a previous film with Alexandra called Habló, Drop by Drop. And then she made a film, and now I made a film, and now we're back working together. And the film is called Percebes, and I'm going to show you. The Percebes is this guy here. Can you see it?
Yeah, but what's its shape?
This is it's a creature that it's very beautiful. It grows actually in the rock where the wave beats against, and it's very dangerous to get. There's a lot of people that die. It's kind of a shellfish. It tastes like the sea, and people in Portugal and Galicia eat it a lot. it grows in other parts of the world, but only here it has this shape, and people eat it like this. And it's called Percebes, but the movie, the short film is it's about the region of Algarve in the south of Portugal, and they we follow this creature from the moment that it's picked from the rock until the plate where it's served, passing through different moments and localities where we interviewed people talking about the relationship with the tourism and their relationship to the sea. This is a region of Portugal that it's very transformed by tourism, and there's a lot of duality between the people from there and how they feel about tourism. So they really love it and they really hate it at the same time. And the film it follows this creature, but also showing a little bit of this social background through the people's voices in different places where tourism is an important part.
It sounds great.
I'm still working a little bit how to explain this. It's a work in progress.
No, but it sounds really great. And finally, well, when we talk about movies that touch families, we have brothers and sisters, we have parents, we have grandparents, but also we have uncles. Maybe we have Monuncle, Tío Tomás by Regina Pessoa. So why do you think cinema is so fascinated by uncles?
By uncles. I think that the uncle is that character that it's not so close and also not so far away. It's kind of a medium way, and there's different relationships to uncles that they can be really transformative of your life. Like Tio Tomás, for example, was very special to Regina. Like there's little things that can really transform. They're kind of like this absent person from your life that when it arrives there, it's the same with my film. Like when it's there, it's doing some changes because you have this special connection, even if you don't see each other so much. I think that uncles are really fascinating. There's also one film called Everyone Has a Crazy Uncle by Afonso Cruz in Portugal, which is a very nice film as well, by the way, which also exploits this idea of the uncle. But yeah, I think that when we get older, we start looking back and trying to understand why we are like we are, and there are some relationships that we find there, and I think that this one is like this uncle one for me was special. And also for Regina. So I think that everyone should think about their uncles. Definitely. They're going to find something special there.